Yell at me, right? Let me ask a question, because at several town meetings that I've had in the last couple of weeks, I asked the question, how many people here are mad or angry? Very angry. Well, I am too mad or angry, and the purpose of this town meeting is not just to release our frustrations, but hopefully for me to get an ability to understand what's driving the anger or madness in you. So when I go back to Washington, I can not only tell my colleagues in the Congress as a whole, but also my colleagues in the Democratic caucus. I believe we should be doing certain things, and we'll talk about it tonight. I disagree with some of the positions, certainly, that the President has been taking, but I disagree with some of the positions that the Democratic caucus is taking. As a matter of fact, just before I got here, I got off the phone with the White House, because I'm talking with the Chief of Staff to give him a recommendation for Attorney General. And that's really not heard that a Democrat would be calling a Republican White House to give the President a recommendation on an Attorney General appointment. But I think it's very important and a great opportunity out there. And I'll share with you, my recommendation. And if you remember, in the Clinton administration, we were having great difficulty in his last 3 years in office because of the impeachment and other attacks on the President and some of the conduct of the President, to be honest. A lot of people didn't appreciate it, and there were movements, of course, to impeach. And it was impeding the progress of the Department of Defense. Secretary Perry was really a great secretary, but he was a Democrat. He had been appointed by President Clinton as part of a cabinet position to be very loyal to the President. And at that point, the Republicans in the Congress, who control the Congress, were not responding well to the needs of the Department of Defense. Now, we could have gone on for the next 3 years and argued that problem. But I thought President Clinton did the wise thing. And what he did is he appointed a former Republican senator, Bill Cohen of Maine. And Bill became the Secretary of Defense. And what that did was neutralize politically the Department of Defense. I believe we've also had that problem in this administration. And of course, Secretary Rumsfeld resigned, and Secretary Gates has been put in his place. Now, Gates is not a Democrat, comparable to the appointment of Cohen, but Gates is not thought of as a President George W. Bush person. He comes from his father's administration, and he's highly respected on the Hill by both sides, Republicans and Democrats. And if you may not be acutely aware of it, but if I call it to your attention now, you'll notice there are not a lot of arguing newspaper stories or people attacking Secretary Gates, because the conclusion in Washington and the Congress on both sides of the aisle is he's doing a fair job, And that's important in the administration of these departments. Now, we've had a lot of fun with Frito, is it? The President calls Attorney General Gonzalez.
Fredo,
right. Well, I think I'd quit if he nicknamed me that. But he now is resigned. And so my position is very clear. I think that is good. It's good for him. It's good for the Bush administration. It's good for the country. He just has lost respect from, again, both sides of the aisles as the Attorney General. And if he remained there for the next 16 or 17 months, the Department of Justice and a good part of the administration really would have been paralyzed. Because quite frankly, I'll tell you, I've read some of his memos on Guantanamo and on the right to torture prisoners, et cetera, and I just have no respect for his interpretation of the law or the various conventions that the United States is signatory to. And I think he did a great disservice in giving those interpretations he did to the President and the Secretary of Defense. He did this nation great harm, because he forgot the principle that the Attorney General is a constitutional office. It's one of the offices mentioned in the Constitution. There are only 4, and that is Treasury, Secretary of State, Attorney General, and Secretary of War, which would be equivalent to defense. Now, those are the only constitutional cabinet officers. The others are created by Congress. And what's important is that these cabinet officers, they are appointed by the president, but they serve the American people. And they're really part of the checks and balances on the executive power of government. And it's vitally important that these people can, what they say, talk to power. That means they can drop by the Oval Office, and when the president has a thought on something, they can say, Mr. President, that's not legal, it's not constitutional, you can't do that. And unfortunately, Gonzalez's practice was anything goes. Anything the chief executive wants, he'll write a memo and approve it. And as a result, his credibility went down, 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 and down. And then finally, you can see what happened with the U.S. attorneys. A lot of people say, who the hell cares about U.S. attorneys? You and I care, because the U.S. attorney, there's one here in Scranton, there are 93 in the country. They're all appointed by the President of the United States, and they serve at his pleasure. That doesn't mean they serve to pleasure the President. They serve at his pleasure. He can remove them without cause, no question about that. But they are to administer justice as an elected district attorney. How would you like to have a district attorney that only prosecutes Republicans or only prosecutes Democrats? What kind of justice would that be? And that's exactly what was happening on the federal system. They were removing these 8 or 9 U.S. attorneys because they wouldn't do what the Department and the White House was telling them to do in the administration of justice. And they fired them. So the question immediately, well, there were 85 that weren't fired. You know why they weren't fired? Because they were doing what the White House was telling them to do politically. And as a result, there's a tremendous loss across the country of faith. How would you like to be charged with a federal crime and realize that it's not only the question whether you did or didn't commit the crime, but they're going to look at how you're registered or what your political positions are, and that's going to determine whether they prosecute you or don't, or how are they prosecuted or don't. It just, the most unbelievable standard of justice, and it hasn't been that way. Regardless of whether it's Republican or Democrat administrations, the Department of Justice and the Attorney General has always been free. As a matter of fact, Janet Reno, who was Attorney General for Bill Clinton for 8 years, and the President hardly spoke. They were, in great disagreement with one another. But the President did not exercise his right to remove her as Attorney General, and she carried out her functions, and the Justice Department carried out very well during the Clinton administration. It's been put down. Now, getting back to what I'm doing, the reason I called today, I think it's incumbent upon all of us, Republican or Democrat, that are national office holders, to let our thoughts be known. I'm going to throw you out a name, you probably won't even know the name unless you think back. But I'm recommending to the President that he seriously consider for appointment immediately to the Attorney General of David Lewis. Does anybody know who David Lewis is? He represented Al Gore in the election in 2000 before the Supreme Court. Very famous litigator in the country. He is a Democrat. Why would I suggest the President appoint? One, although he's a Democrat, he's not first a Democrat. First, he's a lawyer, and he has a very substantial belief in the rule of law, and that's very important. And he's universally respected for both his ability and his ethics and his standards as an attorney. I think that would go a million miles to repairing the lack of faith that the Congress has in the Justice Department, the Department of Justice employees having their own leadership, and the lack of faith the American people have developed over the last several years with the Gonzales administration of the Attorney General. And it would be a special act that the President is sending a message to all of us throughout the country, throughout the hierarchies of leadership, really throughout the world, that he's got 16 to 17 more months in office, and he wants to do something very productive as opposed to just entering into political fight after political fight after political fight. I think you join me in the thought, one of the frustrations